Good morning. My name is Ann Packham. I will be your service leader this morning. I want to welcome you to the University Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. There's a couple of new things that have happened since we came back in July that I just want to call your attention to. So first of all, we ask for your patience as we work through the in-person and online version of our services. So go ahead and wave to those people that may be out there in cyber world and on YouTube and Facebook. We will ask you, if you're in the sanctuary, to keep your mask on unless you're speaking up here or you're eating or drinking, to encourage, and we also encourage socially distancing during the coffee hour. I think we'll have the Memorial Garden open. It's a little chilly out there, but I think we can handle that. For those who are presenting joys and concerns during the service, they are broadcast, so just be aware that you are live during those joys and concerns. Normally we would have a lot of kids in here running around, but because of COVID, the kids are in the back building, so we're not mingling. We hope to have them back here one of these days in the near future. Once the vaccines maybe are all rolled out and everyone gets shots in their arms, maybe we'll be able to be back together again. Because right, I know they've been approved, so I know it's going to take a little while to roll them out to everybody, but hopefully they'll be back soon. And I think that's sort of the housekeeping rules. Before we really get into the meat of the service, we like to give our committees an opportunity to share what's going on. So if any committee chairs would like to come up to the microphone here and share, that would be great.
Hello, David McElroy, Men's Support Group. We have decided to do Men's Support Group online every 2 weeks and live every 2 weeks. So tomorrow night is the Zoom portion of the Men's Support Group. If you would like to be involved and you haven't been, see me afterwards and I'll get you the information. And those that have been on, I'll see you tomorrow.
Good morning, everybody. John Mowbray on behalf of Facilities and Grounds. Not next Saturday, but the Saturday after, which would be November 20th, is going to be work day. So if you'd like to come out and lend any expertise that you have, as far as carpentry, tiling, whatever, landscaping, we can use the help. So the November 20th from about 9 to 12 o'clock. If you can make it, please come on by. All right, thank you.
Happy Sunday, everybody. I am here with the representative of our OWL team. OWL stands for Our Whole Lives and is the UUA Sexuality Education Program.
You want me to talk?
Yeah, go ahead.
Now. Hello. Hi, I'm Chloe McElroy. I'm one of the OWL facilitators. And we are actually doing a parent meeting next Sunday,
week, the 14th.
The 14th, thank you, at 1 p.m. And the parent meeting is basically, it's a required meeting of any parents that would like their children, or their students, their kids, I don't know what, we call them students in our classroom, to be part of Our Whole Lives. Our Whole Lives, like Judith said, is a just sexuality class for students from the age 11. I think we're doing 11 to 17. And basically you just have to come see what slides we're going to show your children in order for you to approve of what's going to be shown to your youths. So it's going to be at 1 p.m.
1 p.m.
the 14th. Yes, Beatrice? That's a good question.
Actually, I'm going to start asking to see if I can get somebody in here for that.
That would probably be helpful.
I will attempt to.
Beatrice's question, for any of those who are online, was if we will be facilitating childcare, and Judith responded with, "We're working on it."
I'm working on it. It's under construction.
It's under construction, as we learned in RE today. Yeah, so if you have any questions, I'm literally in the back until 12 o'clock normally. You'll see me wandering around with all the crazy kiddos. You feel free to come ask me questions if you need to. You can feel free to email Judith, and she can get it sent to the RE team, or to the OWL team. I'm part of the RE team too, so my brain, I've got two hats on. Anyways, it's been lovely to come in here. I don't get to see your lovely faces that much anymore, and this is a beautiful time.
OWL this year is for 6th grade through high school-ish. So 11 to 17, there you go. All right, Tag.
Just another reminder, our quarterly meeting will be coming up on the 21st, so that's 2 Sundays from now, so hope we have a good crowd then. And the program planning team, I've been talking with Reverend Tracy, and we're going to have hopefully we're planning a program planning retreat morning on December 4th, a Saturday. We'll do it in the back building. Watch for an invitation coming out, and hopefully that'll be a good weekend for all of you that would like to participate, to fully talk about how our lay-led and our shared ministry with the minister work together, and what kind of programs we can do for the year, and how we can get some more of our lovely members participating as we have today. So anyway, look for that coming soon for December 4th.
Good morning, Margie from membership. We're looking for some greeters for the last 2 weekends in last 2 Sundays of November, which are the 21st and the 28th. If you'd like to come out about a half an hour before service starts and say hi to folks who are coming in, please let me know and I'll put you on. Thanks.
Joey Cole for SAC first. As many of you know, we got canceled with Habitat for Humanity due to the weather, so we are being rescheduled for January 29th. If you weren't able to come because it was on a Friday and you think you can make a Saturday now, please let us know and we'll be happy to send you the information. No, I don't know what we will be doing. We do not know ahead of time, but they're not going to ask you to do anything you cannot do. I'll just leave it at that. The other thing I wanted to mention for hospitality is that we still don't have a group of people or anyone who is signed up for December. And I really need to have some of those Sundays covered. I can cover some, but if you could just see me, I think it's so close, if you could just tell me one-on-one. I again thank the women's group for taking November, the men's group for taking February, and I'm looking for January as well. So please contact me if you can come and help with coffee in the morning. Thank you.
Good morning, Amy Mowbray with Beacon Youth Group. We do not meet today, but conveniently, we will be meeting at 1 o'clock next Sunday during the parent meeting for OWL from 1 to 2:30. So I think we're doing a fire pit and s'mores, if that helps entice people. So, thank you.
We've got a lot going on here, so see the folks afterward if you can volunteer for any of those fun jobs. You know, being a greeter and working in the kitchen, you get to meet a lot of people, and that's what this place is kind of all about, is getting to know people. My opening words today are from Greta Thunberg. She's an 18-year-old climate activist. She was speaking this week at a summit of world leaders in Glasgow, as you may have heard, called the Summit of the COP26. I had to look up what that was. So it's basically a committee. You know, the climate group have been meeting, the Climate Change Summit, and this is their 26th meeting. I didn't realize that was what that 26 actually meant. So they've been meeting for a long time, since I think 1994. And 100 world leaders promised to end and reverse deforestation by 2030. That was one of their first deals that they made. The felling of trees contributes to climate change because it depletes the forest that absorb vast amounts of the warming gas CO2. A similar pledge was made in 2014, but at the time, lots of big countries like Brazil didn't sign on. But now they have signed on, as well as Russia and Indonesia. So Ms. Thunberg said, "This is not a drill. It's code red for the Earth. Millions will suffer as our planet is devastated, a terrifying future that will be created or avoided by the decisions you make. You have the power to decide." Our opening music today is one of our favorites, Blue Boat Home by Peter Mayer, and the arrangement is by Paul Thompson, and the choir that's singing it is the UU Church of Palouse, Moscow, Indiana. That's actually one of my favorites. I'm really looking forward to the time that we can sing again and all get our hymnals and sing out loud again, because it's a beautiful song. In the tradition of the UU faith, we always light a chalice every week to sort of renew our commitment to each other as well as our covenant. So we start with the lighting of our chalice, and please say in unison, I'll be lighting the chalice. We don't have our kids here, but please say these words with me together. And then we, as a community, we affirm our covenant to each other with our affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, and to help one another. I want to take this opportunity to welcome you again, or any visitors that we have here today. I see a few that have come several times. And we invite you to come back many times, because as you'll see, every week is a little bit different. We have speakers from various traditions. We have a part-time minister now, so we have her here in the pulpit some of the time. And then we have members of our own congregation, like Paula today, who provide their gifts to us. So we really encourage you to come back several times, get to know us, and get to know what we're all about. We will have coffee and tea after the service today. And I think that's it. Please come back and visit us if you haven't come. And if you're there in the cyber world, we greet you again and hope that you'll come back in person. And in the meantime, hoping that you'll have fellowship on Zoom, which is not exactly the same, but it's something for what we have right now. So welcome, everybody. In our tradition here, we share our joys and concerns. These are things that have touched us in our lives, whether they be great joys in our lives or concerns that we may have. So I welcome you to come to the microphone up here and share a joy or concern. And if you need the microphone brought to your chair, just let me know and I'll bring it there. Let's see, is that microphone on, Patrick? Yep.
Okay. I have two joys today. My best friend's baby was born. His name is Forrest. He's the cutest thing I've ever seen in my whole entire life. And my second joy is that this past week I was working on a certification for my job. It's professional crisis management, where we learn like immobilization and transportation techniques for clients that are having a rough day. And I passed.
Hello, David McElroy. I neglected to say a joy a couple of weeks ago. We had the meditation group from UUUF at our beach house, and I just saw some pictures today. They were very nice that Lorraine had done for everybody. And so glad to have them there. The second joy is we had our kids for the weekend and 5 dogs. Whew. The dogs were a little hectic, but the rest of it was fun. And things are starting to come back to normal for plays and things. So I actually have 4 Christmas carols live this year.
Wow.
And 1 online on the 24th, which I will give information about later. But anyway, so glad that it's coming back.
Barry London here, trying to disconnect from his hearing aids, no doubt.
Yeah, it's on your glasses now.
No, it's on your glasses. All of it happens at once.
In Humpty Dumpty, I'm here for a shout out to Big Roy Shear. I don't know if he's on Zoom or not, but I don't really appreciate what caregiving is until I see and hear what Roy does. Recently, he has removed his beloved Judy from a memory center into a hospital for pneumonia.
Oh, no.
Then to remove her finally from the hospital, she could not go back to the memory center until she could walk. And so he and daughter Jessica are 8 on and 8 off in a nursing home because they don't have enough staff looking after Judy until they can get her to the point that they can get her back to the memory center. So, Roy, you are amazing.
Hi, Larry Vita here. I have a joy and a concern. My daughter passed her road test.
Morning, everyone. Marissa Khan, and just a simple joy that this week I celebrated Diwali, and not in any big way, but my family does celebrate it, and it was so good to just see pictures of everyone celebrating kind of individually. No big celebration still, but still nice to do.
Nice.
Hi, Marilyn Furmanek, and I just have a joy. This coming Friday, I'm going to be in Playfest digitally through Orlando Shakespeare. It's called The Last Ship to Proxima Centauri. It's a mouthful. And I'm like the lead, which at my age never happens. Like, it's just amazing. I'm still in shock. But, but anyway, it is a fascinating and instructional societal contemplation. It is sci-fi about we've decimated the earth and we have to leave for another planet. And when we get there, the white people are looked at as immigrants, and they're extremely hesitant to accept white people because of the violence that they've shown in the past. However, the other nationalities on the ship are more welcome. So even reading it was fascinating to read, so I'm looking forward to seeing it up on its feet. It's this Friday at 7:30, and just go on Orlando Shake's website to see how you can tune in.
Yesterday, right around 12 noon, there was a shootout in my neighborhood.
Oh, God.
4 houses were hit. Fortunately, no one was injured. The house where it happened is not on my street, but right up the street I come down when I drive into the community. That we know vehicle that drove in, perhaps they had injuries, we don't know. They obviously drove back out. Happened at a renter's home. We had trouble finding we knew who the owner was. We had trouble getting in touch with them because they're still registered as being at that particular location. They're obviously not. I finally did get a hold of the guy. He's in Delaware. I'm on the HOA. That's why I'm doing this stuff. Police said the only thing we can suggest is cameras at the entrance and exit, which we're thinking about doing anyway. My obvious concern is what happened in my community, but further than that, it's this incredibly, the proliferation of firearms in this country, and it's like we're living in the Old West. I mean, in some instances, or worse, because of mass shootings. We have got to do something about gun control in this country. I don't know what it is. I don't know what I can do, but let me tell you that this is something I'm definitely going to be thinking about and concentrating on for the next however long I've got left on this earth. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
My grandson was attending the Oviedo High School homecoming dance last night. And it was pretty neat to see him all dressed up and all that. And then I got a text from my daughter about 10 o'clock, said, "Don't believe the rumors, Devin is fine." Well, at 10 o'clock at night, I didn't want to call or inquire, so I waited until this morning. Apparently, there are 3 reports. The kids are saying guns were shot last night at the homecoming. They all left the homecoming about an hour into it, ran down to the big Cross Life Church, which is a pretty good run. And fortunately, somebody from Cross Life with a very big heart went down and opened up the church so that the kids could be sheltered there. The school is saying no guns were fired, and the police are saying they're looking in to see what happened. So,
Wow. Let's take a minute to hold these and any other unspoken joys and concerns in our hearts. Amen. We have our time for all ages. And we have our Director of Religious Education here, Judith Stein-Farrell. Apparently, she and Paula are going to do some kind of fun activity, so take it away.
So I find, first of all, I've got to sidetrack a moment. This is why we have a community. This Joys and Concerns, this is what Joys and Concerns is for. Be grateful that you have this beautiful group here and online to be of support to one another and a place to go to ask for it.
What she said.
All right, so Paula has this absolutely awesome presentation for you today. I got a mini version of it yesterday, and it's cool. And it is nature's story, nature's embodiment of our third and seventh principles. The third principle is acceptance of one another and encouragement in our spiritual practices. And by the way, you can't accept one another if you don't already accept our first principle, which is the inherent worth and dignity of all people, right? And our seventh principle is the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are all a part, which means, the kids say it means we care for our earth, but frankly what it means is what we do matters, both on our earth and with one another, and in our communities and in our congregations. So what I'm going to do for you today is an embodiment of these principles. By playing a game we all played as a kid. Who here was a kid once? Okay. Not everyone's hand went up. I'm a little concerned. Yeah. Who here, thank you. I was expecting that answer. Who here is still a child? There we go, there we are.
8 years old.
Who remembers Cats in the Cradle? And I don't mean the Harry Chapin song. Okay. That's what, right, exactly, a string game. That's one of the things we're going to demonstrate for you today. But first I'm going to demonstrate a different string game, and I'm sorry, folks online, if you can't see what I'm doing, and I'm sorry for folks in the back. I'll walk through in a moment. But the first thing I'm going to do is a string exercise called Jacob's Ladder, okay? And, you kind of have to fix the string, start where you are, accept where you are, and start from the beginning, right? So you fix the string on your hands, and then you do something with it, right? And then you do something else with it, and then you do something else with it, right? And then you do something else with it, and then you go like this, and you go like that, and you're paying attention all the way until you get something like that. Okay. Sorry?
Online can see.
Online can see. Yay! So here we go. We've got something called Jacob's Ladder, and we're not going to go into why it's called Jacob's Ladder just right now, because that's a theological lesson I'm not prepared for. We have ministers that can do that for us. But what you've got here is a complicated piece of artwork on your fingers that took some time and attention. And if I hadn't been paying attention to what I was doing, I would have ended up with a knot. But it's a piece of string that I would like to use again. And if I'm not careful about how I deconstruct Jacob's Ladder, I won't be able to use it again. So I'm going to put it down and carefully pull it apart so we can see. So, right? This is the embodiment of paying attention and of doing something that matters, that it matters how you do it and what you do. Now, Paula and I are going to play a game called Cat's Cradle. Now, who remembers playing Cat's Cradle? Right. So I took this back to the classroom this morning, and some people were like, well, I remember what that looks like, but I don't remember anything else. Okay. So what I've got here is this frame of fabric, of yarn, and Paula's going to play with me. And she is going to take it and make another design And then we are going to do it again and make another design. And then, and again. And then we're basically back at the beginning. And we can do it all over again. Right?
But you can't do this by yourself.
Aha! The key. You need someone else to make it work. Let's work with my lesson now and not your smart ass.
Mayak, if you want to figure out how to do it with feet and demonstrate that, we're ready.
So for those who can't hear us, Miak offered to do it play this game with his feet. And him, yeah. All right. So theoretically, this can go on and on and on endlessly if you cooperate with the person you're playing with. And theoretically, if everyone wanted to give it a try, we could go around the room and do it. I'm not going to mess with the cameras and the wildness of that. But it can go on and on. But the moment you stop paying attention, you get knots. Or you just can't do it anymore. It's open and, oh gosh, you dropped everything. Kind of like knitting even. Right? So you pay attention and you can continue forward. You pay attention to what you're doing. Why does an embodiment of this, like this, on this scale matter? Because it can be scaled, right, into bigger conversations and bigger ideas. And why we do things like this in here and with our kids is so that they can carry it forward in their thinking, and you can carry it forward in your thinking in the bigger issues of life, like the ones you're going to hear from today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we are going to have our interlude and offering. This is a time where, back in the pre-COVID era, we would be passing baskets, but in today's era, we have a basket over here where you can drop some money, or you can pay online at the tiny URL that's listed on the screen over there. And 40% of what's collected today will go to Habitat for Humanity for Seminole and County and Apopka. So please give generously. And the most exciting thing is that the music that we are going to have during our interlude and offering was actually sung by our own UUUF choir. So I'm so excited.
Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I make my way, still with
I'm just getting choked up because we got to actually like sing together as a group. Now we were standing outside and you could see it started to get windy, and right after that take we were like, oh, let's do it one more time, and it started to rain. So we're like, oh, that's it. No more takes. So it's just very nice to get together with folks and be able to sing. So I miss that. So our speaker today is Paula Despang. She is a self-described tree-hugging dirt worshiper. She came to paganism through a study of ecology, begun in college, and nurtured in self-study ever since. She's going to be speaking to us today. Just the title is, as UU, we speak often of the interdependence of life, of which we all are a part, that they just spoke of, our seventh principle. Today we will hear some details to clarify that idea, many taken from Finding the Mother Tree by Suzanne Simard. The scientific method was put to full use here to prove the connections between various forms of plant life. Paula, take it away.
Thank you. That's where that goes. So, first I'm going to tell you a little bit about Suzanne Simard. She's of French-Canadian descent. She's one of those Quebecois, her ancestors were, and for the last 5 generations, her family has lived in and been lumberjacks, actual loggers in the BC interior. It's a deeply forested area, very old trees, I don't know, who's been there? Not many. It's amazing. Go online and look at some photos. At the very least, it will knock your socks off. Anyway, she grew up there, and her family was loggers back when logging meant 5 or 6 guys and a percheron, and they'd take all day to cut down a tree and then have this percheron pulling it down the sluice that they had made to the lake, and then gather up a bunch of them at the lake and boom them together and take them to the mill for marketing. Well, growing up there and being a curious little girl and encouraged curiosity, she learned to love the forests and had a fascination with everything that grows there. And one particular incident still sticks in her mind. She's almost my age, so she's been around a little while. But when she was 5, their dog fell into the outhouse. See, that's just as bad as you thought it was. And there is no easy way to get a dog out of an outhouse and you can't just leave it there, right? So her dad and her uncle started digging right beside the hole for the outhouse so that they could eventually reach over and haul the dog out. And as they were digging, she saw all these different kinds of things under there. There were roots under there, certainly. You would expect roots. They live in the middle of a forest. There were also visibly different kinds of fungi under there. Pink ones and yellow ones and white ones, all interwoven, and some of them wrapped very closely around the skinniest parts of these roots. Wow, that's interesting stuff when you're 5. It remained interesting to her, and so it made her want to be much more involved in, and she grew up and she wanted to work with that kind of stuff, and she wanted to be paid to study it, and she found a way. She got her PhD in forest sciences. Now, she started studying forestry in her for her bachelor's degree, and she got her PhD eventually at the Oregon State University in forest services, for forest sciences. And she's now a professor at the University of British Columbia in the Department of Forestry and Conservation Sciences at UBC. A very well-respected school. Dr. Simard was convinced that trees shared nutrients with one another. She had tasted the soil under those trees and noticed it was sweet in the summertime. And so she said, something's going on here, and I want to find out. I want to verify this scientifically for all the naysayers who, they were all listening to, what's the guy's name? Oh, yeah. No, here he is. I wrote him down. Darwin. Yeah. Darwin says the strongest ones will survive and the rest will just not. And the strongest ones will survive and reproduce, and the rest of them will not. And we talk about the Darwin Awards. You've heard of the Darwin Awards, where people do things to take themselves out of the gene pool. Okay, well, Darwin thought that we were all in competition with one another, but this ain't necessarily so. She found that they were actively sharing, and this is what she did. She had a lot of little trees, like that, little short ones, baby trees. And she said, I want to find out if they're exchanging nutrients under there, and I want to be able to prove that that's what's happening here. She got some big tanks of, carbon-12, that's most of our carbon. She got a hold of big tanks of carbon-13, an isotope, and carbon-14. Not readily available. You have to have permits and explain why you need it and what you think you're going to do with those. So she got them, and on a beautiful sunny day, she went out to the field. The field of baby trees that she was going to use for this. And she put plastic bags over the trees. Here, bags over all of them, but they were designated alternately to get the carbon-12 or the carbon-13 or the carbon-14. And she would inject the carbon-14 into some and the carbon-13 into others while the bag was over there, and hold the bag shut and seal it up, go on to the next tree and keep going around. Leave them all for a couple of hours on a nice bright sunny day so that they will do their photosynthesis thing and create their chlorophyll and do all that stuff that I always thought was pretty magical for leaves to be able to do it at all. And then after she waited a couple of hours, she vacuumed all that stuff back out of those bags, took the bags off, put it all back in the truck, vacuumed all that stuff back out, and then she waited a couple of weeks. Then she cut down these little tiny baby trees. They were little trees and she was going to replace them anyway, don't worry. She dried them out and ground them up and sent the little parcels, each one representing one tree, little parcels of the ground up bits of tree, to a lab that could test for the isotopes, and found that every single one of those trees had both carbon-14 and carbon-13 in it. They had freely exchanged this back and forth using the mycelium underneath the ground. They were exchanging nutrients. They weren't competing for the nutrients available. They were sharing. So, with that in mind, she did the same kind of testing on some birch trees and some fir trees, Douglas fir trees that were planted close together. Same experiment. 2 different species, and found out that they too were sharing nutrients. She did this experiment twice because the first one, the results were not quite so exciting. So the second one, she said, wait a minute, there's something different going on here. It's different than when you have just 2 pine trees sitting side by side. So she went to, at springtime, before the birch trees had any leaves, but of course the fir trees already had their needles out and they were already doing photosynthesis with theirs because they were already greened up. In the spring, she found that the fir trees were giving their sap to the birch trees. And in the summertime, when the birch trees had spread their arms out nice and wide and were hogging most of the sunshine, they were giving their sap to the fir trees. And in the fall, when the birch trees had lost their leaves, the fir trees were given some more back. Interspecies cooperation from plants. Go figure. Here's some more, there's more stuff that she found, and we have a video that Pat is going to play for us, and you'll get to see her for just a few minutes. It's a short clip.
My research does show that they're communicating. Yes, it's a method of communication. These plants are really not individuals in the sense that Darwin thought they were individuals competing for survival of the fittest. In fact, they're interacting with each other, trying to help each other survive. Well, I'm a forester, specialized into looking at below-ground communities. We found that these fungi actually will connect one plant to another plant. Okay, so this tree here has got roots growing out everywhere, and as we get further away from the tree, we're more likely to find its roots, the ones that are involved in this trade. This is where the fungi hunt or scavenge for nutrients. So the tree sends down its carbon, it goes through the root system and through into these fungi, and there's an interface between the root cortical cells and the fungal cell that's wrapped itself around that cortical cell, and that's where this exchange goes on. So meters away you can have a plant connected to another plant, and they're just shuffling carbon and nitrogen back and forth according to who needs it. The mother trees we think of as the big old trees. They catch your eye when you walk into a forest. This Douglas fir is about 500 years old. It's a massive tree that will have an enormous network associated with it. So you could think of this as a mother tree. You know, it's in the sense that it's a dominant tree in the forest. It's probably networked into all of the trees all around it, even though they're of different species. So this tree is probably linked over to trees as far as you can see. It's just that there are trees in between that are the bridges for the network. Forest ecosystems are really complex systems, just like the Earth is a complex system, the biosphere. And the way it works is that we have all these parts, and all these parts are working together, like the fungus is working together with the tree. It's a lot like how our brains work. In neural networks, our brains are comprised of neurons and axons, and these neurons are physically related, but they're also, almost metaphysically related, because they're sending messages back and forth and they're building upon each other. It works a lot like a forest ecosystem. So in this forest, the fungus and the tree working together allows lots of structure. That structure is expressed in species diversity or structural diversity of the forest. And that diversity is really what gives the forest resilience. The resilience to withstand unexpected events like a fire that might come through, or an insect, or a windstorm. Well, somebody's going to be left standing because there's a diversity there. Some of the forest practices that we have done pay no attention to the role of these mother trees, or that trees actually will move some of their legacy to the new generation. We didn't pay attention to it. Instead, what we did is we went and cut down those trees after they died so that we could make 2x4s out of them. And we didn't give them a chance to give back to the community, I don't think. So what those dying trees will do is that they will also move resources into living trees, to the young ones coming up before they completely collapse. So it's a transfer, like a passing of the wand from one generation to the next, if we allow it to happen.
Gets infested with some bugs, it will let the other trees around it know, here comes a certain kind of bug. If you have anything that you can do about like insecticides and stuff, pump it up now. Pump it up now, because here they come. And they do. Various plants have different kinds of insecticides that they can produce. And they've measured which ones are producing how much at what times. And they've been finding that that's what they do. When they show up in one part of the forest and only one tree is infested, the other trees start building up their resistance to that. It's amazing. When the biggest, oldest trees, which of course have the deepest roots, when there's a shortage of water, the ones with the really deep roots can still pull water up from deep underground and share it with the smaller trees that don't have so much roots, benefiting the whole community, the whole forest, and of course benefiting the mycelium that's connecting them all together. I love this stuff. This work, the work that she's been doing with this, she's done this work for her entire adult life. This is what the kind of things that she's been studying and thinking about and learning. And her work inspired the creators of the movie Avatar. Who's seen that? Cool. The Cherokee people speak of all my relations. And if you ask, they'll tell you. They'll tell you about their walking brothers, mostly the mammals. They'll tell you about flying brothers, birds and bats and so forth. They'll tell you about swimming brothers, fish and otters. They'll tell you about crawling brothers, little creepy bugs and stuff. And then they'll tell you about their standing brothers, trees and other plants. They knew when they built their language that we're all connected, that we're all brothers and sisters. I'm assuming they would, if they had thought about it far enough, they would have been more inclusive and said sisters, but they didn't. The person I was talking to did not. And all that connection that they were knowing intuitively is being verified by this work. So what, you say? Now, I have not, in my searches, I have not found research verifying that these kind of exchanges in Florida species. But I'm ready to speculate that such a great idea couldn't only be used by the plant life in the Pacific Northwest. When life forms find a good system that works well, they spread it all out and everybody tries it. And so I'm willing to put my bets on it being done here in Florida as well. Our job is to recognize the plant miracles around us with the same awe as we do the birth of an elephant. Everybody ever seen the birth of an elephant? You've seen your cat give birth to kittens? Okay, you may have seen that. Or some of you have watched your own kids be born. Yeah. This is just that amazing. It's just that awe-inspiring if you look at it like, here, this is life. This is life. Whew. Our job is to protect what there is, not hacking it apart for bigger houses and fancier furniture or whatever it is people are out there fetching. Just yesterday, the New York Times published an essay on the positive effects of intact forest. That's any more than 190 square miles versus the negative impacts of deforestation on global warming. Too many people see a forest as just a lot of money standing there for the cutting. Let us look at a forest as a living community contributing to the capture of CO2 and the sustaining of all life on the planet. By the by, we have to hold people to their promises. 5 years ago, there were people who, at one of those COP conferences, 5 countries that committed to ending deforestation, and they haven't done it. The CO2 numbers verify that they haven't done it, and the pictures from the satellite cameras verify that they don't. Hold them to their promise. Draw it to their attention that you've noticed that they haven't done it. And I include the U.S. in this. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. That was lovely. We are going to extinguish our chalice, so please say with me the words on the screen. And we will have our closing music, which is Lifted in Love, words by Carl Koresh and Leah Morris, performed by Leah Morris.
We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the birds, they tell us. We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the trees, they tell us. We're here to be lifted in love, to listen to love as a flower raises its face to the sun. We are all one, here to be lifted in grace and love. We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the sky, it tells us. We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the trees, they tell us. We're here to be lifted in love, to listen to love as the children raise all their faces to the sun. We are all one, here to be lifted in grace and love. We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the trees, they tell us. We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the seas, they tell us. We're here to be lifted in love, to listen to love as the flower raises its face to the sun. We are all one, here to be lifted in grace and love.
My closing words today come from this lovely book, Earth Prayers, that Paula provided to me. I was having trouble finding much inspiration on the UUA website, so I'm so glad that she brought this in. This is by Chief Dan George. The beauty of the trees, the softness of the air, the fragrance of the grass speaks to me. The summit of the mountain, the thunder of the sky, the rhythm of the sea speaks to me. The faintness of the stars, the freshness of the morning, the dewdrop on the flower speaks to me. The strength of fire, the taste of salmon, the trail of the sun, and the life that never goes away, they speak to me, and my heart soars. May it be so, and thank you for joining us today. Those are online and those are in person, and the rest of us, let's enjoy some coffee and conversation. Thank you.